Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, I thought that I'll give y'all some boxing news or at least give my little analysis on this fight for right now. But anyways, thank you. I just want to say thank y'all to everyone who has subscribed to my channel as of recent. Been giving me the thumbs up on my videos. Thank y'all so much for watching. Hopefully, y'all enjoy the content. And if you enjoy the content, if you want to hear boxing news and also MMA fight predictions and a certain amount of other things, and also me talk about other sports, click the thumbs up on the video, subscribe to the channel because I will be having certain conversations about that on my channel quite often. But anyway, just getting down to the subject at hand, Showtime announced a certain amount of fights yesterday. Some decently big fights, some fights not so big, but when it comes down to it, I think the biggest fight that was actually announced on Showtime, and some people would say that Gervonta Tank Davis versus Mario Barrios was the biggest fight that was on there. Personally, I don't think so, and the reason why I say that is because I don't look at Barrios as an A-class fighter. I think that he's, a B-class fighter. I think that he's a decent fighter, and we're going to see how well Gervonta Tank Davis performs at the 140-pound division, so that's gonna, it's kind of testing the waters a little bit at the 140-pound division. That fight to me is going to tell me how much of a chance Gervonta Tank Davis has over Josh Taylor or Jose Ramirez or Regis Prograis. So we're going to have to see for that one. That it's an interesting fight just because Mario has the height advantage to reach advantage, and he's maybe a little bit naturally bigger than Gervonta, but I don't even know if I can 100% say that because Gervonta, in terms of weight, who the hell knows? He's pretty big. He might actually be a natural 140-pounder. So it is what it is. Anyway, but the biggest fight that I saw on here, in my opinion at least, was the Guillermo Rigondeaux versus Riel Casimero fight. At least I believe that I'm pronouncing his name correctly. If I'm wrong, then please correct me. But the Filipino fighter, who I believe is a multiple division champion. This is a very interesting fight, guys. I think that this is a 50-50 fight. Guillermo Rigondeaux and some of these slick Cuban fighters, a certain amount of people may not know this, they've been some of my favorite fighters probably of all time. Guillermo Rigondeaux and Araceli Lara, I used to love watching them fight. I still do love watching them fight. I just think it's unfortunate because I don't think the Cuban fighters really ever get the credit that they deserve. I remember at one point in time, Yuriorkis Gamboa, I think, was actually looked at as the most elite out of these three. In my opinion, the one who actually has the best skill set out of the three when it comes to Yuriorkis Gamboa, Araceli Lara, and Guillermo Rigondeaux, in my opinion, it's actually Araceli Lara. And a certain amount of people would disagree. You can certainly debate Guillermo Rigondeaux, but in my opinion, I would debate Araceli Lara because I think he's actually a very good fighter coming forward. I think he's a decent fighter on the inside. I think actually he's a pretty decent fighter everywhere. But Guillermo Rigondeaux, he's pretty close. I would just say Lara actually edges him out just a little bit, but some people would think I'm wrong on that. But I've seen Lara take on some pretty tough fights, and in my opinion, you can argue for Araceli Lara's career that he's actually never lost a fight. All the losses on his record, in my opinion, are somewhat controversial. That includes the Canelo Alvarez fight, that includes the Paul Williams fight, that includes the Jarrett Hurd fight. In my opinion, I thought he won all those fights. The Jarrett Hurd one, I understand why he lost. Maybe he could have threw a little bit more in the Canelo fight, even though personally I still would have clearly given it to Lara. And in the Paul Williams fight, I mean, we all know that was a robbery, but it is what it is. But that being said, Guillermo Rigondeaux, once upon a time, used to be a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, of course, until he recently lost to Lomachenko, not too long ago, I think a few years ago. But when it comes down to it, at one point in time, we looked at Guillermo Rigondeaux, and some of us who watched the old Guillermo Rigondeaux were wondering, is he really the same fighter? And then he fought, I believe, Ceja, who was a Mexican or a Mexican-American fighter, I can't remember. But that was the fight where Guillermo Rigondeaux really did not look that good. That was a couple of fights ago. And to be honest with you, Guillermo Rigondeaux ended up knocking that guy out in kind of a premature stoppage from what I remember, but maybe I'm wrong, I can't remember. Guillermo Rigondeaux, from what I remember of that fight, I thought he was actually losing that fight until he ended up hurting him very badly. I believe when he hit him with a good, it was either a left uppercut or a left hook, I can't remember what it was, but I think it was one of those punches, and he ended up knocking the guy out. The referee stopped the fight. But Guillermo Rigondeaux didn't look good at all in that fight. It looked like he was trying to prove people wrong. about fighting on the inside, and I've seen Araceli Lara do this a little bit in his career as well, where he'll kind of stand in this defensive shell and kind of try to fight on the inside with them. And a certain amount of people, I think, say, well, you proved your point. Don't always fight on the inside, fight your style. Not only can the Cuban fighters have a little bit of a weakness fighting on the inside, it's not that they're the worst fighters on the inside, but their style usually is a little bit more used to range. At least when it comes to a Lara and Guillermo Rigondeaux, they're usually a little bit better on the back foot, and sometimes they can have a little bit more difficulty coming forward. At least Guillermo Rigondeaux, I've seen him have a little bit of problems with that in his career. But don't get me wrong, he was getting his punches off against Ceja. He was landing. It's just he wasn't landing as much as Ceja. Ceja was landing more, it looked like, and he was throwing more. So it looked like Guillermo Rigondeaux was actually going to lose that fight, and then he ended up hurting him. But let me tell you this, and a certain amount of people may disagree. They may agree with me. I don't know. I don't think 100% that Guillermo Rigondeaux fought that fight because he just completely wanted to fight Ceja on the inside. Now, in my opinion, could he have moved around him a little bit? Yes. But Rigondeaux, I believe, is now 40 years old. If he's not 40 years old, he's very close to it. He might even be 41 years old. I'm not exactly sure what his age is right now. I think he's 40. But when I take a look at Araceli Lara and when I take a look at Guillermo Rigondeaux, I see some of the ability still there. But I think that it is very clear that they're probably not the same athlete that they used to be. Now, that being said, when I seen Guillermo Rigondeaux in his last fight against Solis, which is this fight that you see right here, I just recently judged it because I remember it being a split decision. I'm surprised that this was a split decision. I thought that Guillermo Rigondeaux kind of won the fight clearly. In my opinion, it was either a 8 rounds to 4 or 7 rounds to 5 fight for Guillermo Rigondeaux. I understand why some people maybe would have called it close because Guillermo Rigondeaux was not necessarily throwing a whole lot. And that's going to be the tricky thing in this fight. Guillermo Rigondeaux, a certain amount of people, if he loses this fight, I think a certain amount of people are going to say, well, why didn't he throw more? And the thing is about Guillermo Rigondeaux and Araceli Lara and those types of fighters, they just can't throw at the same clip that they used to be able to because they're older. And that's just the bottom line. Certain amount of people may disagree, but when you throw like that and you're constantly putting energy out there, it's also going to take away energy from your legs because they're moving around constantly. And the more punches you throw, the more energy it is going to take out of you, and the more energy it is going to take out of your legs. That is the bottom line. And they need to move around a lot usually to be somewhat successful because they're not bad inside fighters, but they cannot always necessarily compete 100% on the inside the same way with some of these fighters. And if this is an inside fight, if Guillermo Rigondeaux possibly gets hit by Riel Casimero on the inside, it could be game over for him. I'm rooting for Guillermo Rigondeaux in this fight. And once again, I'm not a fan of any of these fighters. I don't love or hate any of these fighters, but I do respect Guillermo Rigondeaux. He's been one of my favorite fighters to watch for the past 10 years pretty much when it comes down to it, or somewhere around there. But when it comes down to it, Guillermo Rigondeaux, I don't know. We'll have to see what he does. If I had to bet on who's going to win this fight, I would say Guillermo Rigondeaux, because I think most likely we're going to get a very similar match to what Guillermo Rigondeaux had against Solis, but Riel Casimero is no joke. This is going to be the best opponent that he has fought ever since Vasyl Lomachenko, in my opinion. This dude, I believe, is the multiple weight division champion, and even though his record may not show it, he's got A-grade power. I've seen him recently fight against 2 very good African fighters. One's against a very good African upcoming fighter, I believe, knocked him out in 3 rounds. I can't remember the guy's name. I think his name was Micah or something like that. I could be wrong. But I also seen him fight Zolani Tete, who overall, I think I'm pronouncing that right, who is a decently slick fighter, who I was decently impressed with for a certain amount of his career. He knocked him out within 3 rounds. That was the first loss within a very certain amount of time that Zolani had. And it was all because, Riel, he didn't look overtly impressive in every spot. It didn't even look like he was throwing a lot. But the punches that he landed hurt him so bad. And Guillermo Rigondeaux needs to really watch out in this fight. I hope that he's able to move around a certain amount. I hope that he's able to get a certain amount of offense out there. This is going to be a very interesting fight because Guillermo Rigondeaux also has great power. I would say that he has a great power. Riel Casimero, he has a great power. It's going to be, in my opinion, a pressure fighter versus a mover. It's going to be very interesting. Now, in my opinion, who would I favor in this fight right now? I would say that Guillermo Rigondeaux should be favored to win this fight because I think both of them are going to be throwing at around the same clip. Riel Casimero, he doesn't really come across to me as a combination puncher. That's not me saying that he doesn't throw combinations. Now, once again, I am going to have to do a little bit more research on him because it's not like I've watched every single fight in his career. But the couple of fights that I have seen him in, he doesn't necessarily appear to be a 100% combination puncher. He seems to throw a certain amount of 1-2s, maybe 1-2-3s on the inside, but he's a very accurate puncher on the inside. He's very dangerous. If Guillermo Rigondeaux is able to win this fight, I think that this is an A-class win. It is a great win if Guillermo Rigondeaux is able to get this win. And of course, if Riel Casimero is able to get this, in my opinion, even though Rigondeaux, he is a bit older, this is still an A-class win. Guillermo Rigondeaux, when I took a look at him in that Solis fight, he cannot necessarily throw at the same clip that he used to because not only is there certain holes in his game, but when it comes down to it, he's not going to have that same amount of energy anymore to do that without possibly taking energy out of his legs. So when it comes down to it, I think that that's a little bit of a problem. But this is a very interesting fight. To be honest with you, I cannot wait for this fight. I think that this is a fantastic fight. I think that Guillermo Rigondeaux, I would put him as the favorite right now. At first, when I was taking a look at it, I was going to say Casimero, but this is a great fight. After I took a look at that recent fight that Guillermo Rigondeaux had against Solis, which I think happened actually probably in was it 2019 when that fight happened? I don't know. I can't remember. But I don't remember Guillermo Rigondeaux fighting in 2020. Maybe I'm wrong about that. One of you guys let me know. But when it comes down to it, I think that this is a fantastic fight. I think this is a 50-50 fight. I'm going with Guillermo Rigondeaux to win this fight. And I hope that he does because I would still like to see him in some other big fights because I always want those Cuban fighters to be remembered in a positive light. And unfortunately, they're usually some of the most avoided fighters out there. So it's very hard for them to get those bigger fights. But when it comes down to it, Guillermo Rigondeaux, I think he can win this fight. I think that it's a possibility that, he can win this fight and move on possibly to even bigger fights. We'll see what happens. But anyway, I think that this is a very good fight. Right now, my prediction would be to have Guillermo Rigondeaux as the favorite, but I'm going to do a full breakdown probably about a month before this fight happens because I got to watch more fights on them. I've pretty much done my research on Guillermo Rigondeaux, but I got to do a little bit more of my research on the Filipino fighter on this one, so we'll see overall what happens. But that's just my early breakdown right there, so we'll see what happens. I think that this is a fantastic fight, and let's see what happens. Anyway, that's really about it. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later. Let me know who you think is going to win this fight and why. How great of a fight do you think this is? And who would you like to see the winner face? Here's another question. Would you like to see the winner of this fight face possibly Naoya Inoue, that one Japanese fighter that I keep hearing about? I believe he's somewhere close to that division. So that would be a great fight. So, yeah. But anyway, that's really about it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you all later.